Ever wondered if there exist prisons that are invisible to the public eye? Places where the world's most secretive operations take place? These aren't your typical prisons with bars and guards. No, these are covert prisons, a world unseen by most, where the rules of law and human rights often blur. They're known as CIA black sites. The mention of these places often stirs controversy, as they are associated with some of the most clandestine operations in modern history. These black sites are not just mere rumors or conspiracy theories, they are an acknowledged reality. They are the dark corners where the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, has been known to conduct covert interrogations, away from the prying eyes of the world. Our journey today is to lift the veil on these secretive places, to uncover the operations and history that have long been shrouded in mystery. So hold on tight as we delve into the shadowy world of CIA's black sites. The origins of these black sites can be traced back to the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. As the dust settled and the world reeled from the shock of that catastrophic day, a new era dawned. An era that saw the United States grappling with a threat unlike any it had faced before. The war on terror had begun, a conflict of shadows and secrets, and in its wake came the establishment of the CIA black sites. These were not prisons as we traditionally understand them. They were covert facilities, tucked away from prying eyes and human rights watchdogs, a clandestine network where the usual rules did not apply. But why were they established? In the wake of the 9/11 attacks, there was a pervasive fear and a desperate need for intelligence. Traditional interrogation methods were deemed insufficient for the task, and so the CIA sought to create an environment where they could operate outside the normal constraints. The black sites were born out of this necessity, a response to the perceived threats of a new age. The establishment of these secret prisons was not a decision taken lightly. It was an act driven by a conviction that the ends justified the means. The black sites were seen as a necessary evil, a way to extract information from those who would do harm to the United States and its allies. They were the front line in a war waged in the shadows, a war where the stakes were high and the rules were blurred. But such a decision didn't come without its costs. The creation of these black sites was a significant departure from the norms of international law and human rights. It was a move that would cast a long shadow over the United States, a shadow that still lingers today. And so, in the aftermath of one of history's darkest days, these black sites came into existence. They were born out of fear, desperation, and a determination to prevent further attacks. Yet they were also born out of a willingness to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in the pursuit of security. Thus began a chapter of history shrouded in secrecy and controversy. These sites hidden from public view were anything but ordinary prisons. They were the CIA's black sites, undisclosed locations where the rules of conventional incarceration did not apply. The operations within these sites were as dark as the shadows they hid in. Under the cloak of secrecy, they became the stage for covert interrogations and extraordinary renditions. The sites served as an intricate web of hidden corners where the CIA conducted their most clandestine operations. Covert interrogations were the mainstay of these black sites. Detainees, often whisked away from their home countries in the dead of night, were subjected to practices that pushed the boundaries of the internationally accepted rules of engagement. The techniques used were often intense, devised to break the will of the detainees and extract information. Extraordinary renditions, a practice shrouded in controversy, were commonplace within these sites. This involved the transfer of detainees to these secret prisons without any legal process. It was an act that left a trail of unanswered questions about the fate of those taken. The most controversial aspect of these black sites was perhaps the fact that they operated outside the jurisdiction of US law. This meant that the actions within these sites were, in essence, beyond the reach of the legal system, creating an environment where the usual checks and balances did not apply. The absence of legal oversight gave rise to practices that were not only controversial but also, in many instances, in direct violation of international human rights laws. The use of enhanced interrogation techniques, often synonymous with torture, became a matter of grave concern for human rights advocates worldwide. But within the confines of these black sites, these practices were the norm, not the exception. The sites were hidden pockets of a world where the rules were rewritten, where the line between right and wrong was blurred. The black sites were a world unto themselves, governed by rules that defied conventions. They were a testament to the lengths to which the CIA was willing to go in the quest for information, a shadowy chapter in the annals of intelligence history. The secrecy surrounding these sites didn't last forever. Eventually, the world came to know. In the early years of the 21st century, whispers of covert CIA prisons began to circulate. Like echoes in a vast empty hall, these rumors were initially faint, yet they steadily grew louder, more persistent. Investigative journalists and human rights activists began piecing together a puzzle that would reveal a chilling picture. They uncovered a world of secret facilities known as black sites. These were places where the conventional rule of law was suspended, where controversial interrogation methods were allegedly employed. A world where the lines between right and wrong were blurred, and the quest for information often overshadowed the respect for human dignity. The existence of these black sites became a hotbed of controversy. Some argued that the ends justified the means, that these practices were necessary to protect national security. Others vehemently disagreed, citing the fundamental human rights violations that these sites represented. As the truth about these black sites seeped out, the international image of the United States took a hit. Questions were raised about the country's commitment to the principles it claimed to uphold: freedom, justice, and respect for human dignity. Countries around the world began to question whether the U.S. in its war on terror had itself become a perpetrator of terror. The revelations led to a storm of international criticism. The United Nations, Amnesty International, and other global bodies condemned the existence of these black sites. They called for their immediate closure and for accountability for those responsible. But the damage was done. The echoes of these controversies continue to reverberate even today, a haunting reminder of a dark chapter in recent history. The black sites, once hidden, were now a global controversy. In the face of mounting pressure, the CIA was forced to confront the reality of its actions. The echoes of these controversies still linger, a stark reminder that the quest for security should never come at the expense of human rights. The exposure of these black sites had far-reaching consequences. Indeed, the unveiling of these clandestine facilities sent shockwaves across the globe, triggering a series of events that would forever alter the landscape of international politics and human rights. Following the revelations, a number of these shadowy facilities were shut down. The proverbial curtain was drawn back, and the stage was set for a new era of transparency. Yet the closure of these black sites was far from the end of the story. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter, one marked by a labyrinth of legal and political ramifications. In the halls of justice, lawsuits were filed, investigations were launched, and questions were raised. Questions about legality, about the boundaries of national security, about the very essence of human rights. Governments across the world found themselves in the crosshairs of scrutiny, their actions under the microscope of international law. The political sphere was no less tumultuous. Politicians had to navigate the treacherous waters of public opinion, balancing the need for national security with the demand for transparency and accountability. Debates raged on, both in the hallowed corridors of power and in the public square. The existence of these black sites had ignited a spark that would fuel a fire of discourse and dissent that continues to burn to this day. And let's not forget the human factor. The individuals who were held in these facilities, their voices were finally being heard. Their stories, their experiences, their pain were now part of the narrative. They served as stark reminders of the human cost of such operations, and they added a layer of urgency to the ongoing debates. But as we delve into the aftermath, we must remember that the story is far from over. The black sites may have been exposed, and many may have been closed, but the issues they raised remain. They continue to shape discussions on national security, on human rights, on the balance between the two. The legacy of the black sites continues to shape discussions on national security and human rights. The echoes of their existence still reverberate, reminding us of a chapter in history that we should never forget. So, are these black sites simply a relic of the past, or do they still exist in some form? We've journeyed through the clandestine world of the Central Intelligence Agency's black sites, hidden prisons that housed some of the most covert operations in history. We've strolled down memory lane, delving into their inception and operations, peering behind the veil of secrecy to reveal the unsettling realities. We've echoed the controversies these sites stirred, practices that sparked debates on human rights and legality. The aftermath of their exposure has been a chilling reminder of the measures taken in the name of national security. But as we conclude, we're left with a lingering question. Have these sites truly been relegated to the pages of history, or do they continue to operate under new names and in new places? Are we still in the dark about the full extent of these operations? The answers may be as elusive as the black sites themselves.